So we are back with a loop reaction video, and I promised myself I'd leave the hype of the RC600 behind for a while, but I've been watching their announcement video a bunch of times with Quinn Oulton, and it's really beautifully put together. I think there are a few sneaky things in there, Boss. I could well be wrong, but I'm curious on a couple of things, and maybe you guys can answer them for me too. I highly recommend going and watching the original video if you haven't, and if you're watching this and it's just come out, this video, then today Boss has a live stream question and answer session on both the RC600 and the Mark II 505 loop stations that have just been announced, due I believe around the globe in December. So a bunch of you have already pre-ordered them. Obviously I've been following the chats and things in all the different looping groups, but let's pull apart kind of what's going on in terms of the different tracks, the ins and outs, and some of the setup with their announcement video. I've got a few questions I have to say, but let's get into it. This will be a little bit different from my standard reaction videos because I have watched this a bunch of times, and it all happens so fast. It's set up really well, but let's dive into all the different parts of it, and curious on your comments as well. I have to say, right, there's going to be a lot of interruptions in this. That's like our first ever look at the Boss RC600. I have to keep reminding myself to say 600. But yeah, okay. Just a little lights and a whole lot of cables out the back. So, track 1, saxophone running from the mic, and set up nicely for track 2, some percussion there. Track 1's pretty short and it overdubs. Obviously he overdubs pretty quick into it. We'll break it down, I'll come back to it, but let's carry on. Okay, setting up for track 3, recording, and jumping on the Jupiter XM. Setting up for track 4, bass. And I should say as well, the bass still starts on that first beat. He just plays a nice lead into it. Da, 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 da. That, you can't see it yet, but there's another external control pedal, and I believe that's setting us up for track 4. I have watched this a few times, and it may be, again, depending on how he's got the pedal set up, it may actually be track 1 and then 3, 4, 5 that records. Curiosity. So I believe this is track 4. Track 5, hang on. Saxophone 1, percussion 2, the synth 3, bass 4. I've watched it too many times. Bass 4. We've got the Roland SPD SX, I believe. Track 5 for percussion. This is one thing, dear Boss, I'm kind of disappointed in a sense, because a lot of people use the Roland SPD SX. It's a beautiful piece of kit, but you've promoted the Boss RC600 as having 200 built-in rhythms, and we don't get to see them at all. Zip, nothing. A little bit unfortunate, but also I'm not disappointed. I'm enjoying the groove. So, track 5. this is the thing I'm most curious about. There's another control pedal assigned which stops our saxophone tracks 1, 2 and 3 stop. It appears that it starts recording track 6 at the same time, which is, I don't actually know what this is, this little key setup that we've got here, so if you know, let me know, which starts recording that. Anyway, there we go. I'm going to talk too much. If you've watched me before, you know that. Sorry. Just take your time, it's a process. You're stuck here unless you get up and try again. Tracks 1 to 3 back in. Now, here's the thing that is questionable for me. When those 3 tracks come back in, we get a harmony on the vocal, and we've got like a kind of radio effect going on as well. So there's a couple of things we're going to get to in this, and we'll go back again. But I'm curious if that's actually programmable or if that's been done in post potentially with a setting. So you can program in the RC600, you can program the key, so no worries, we can put that in. That can already have been set up and, you know, ready for this particular performance. But I'm curious with that control pedal if there's an option when it stops. It simply, perhaps what happens is when it stops, it turns the harmony off as well. That could be a smart move. And when it starts, the harmony kicks on. Could be a possibility. So actually, let's just go back briefly. I'm very curious. Let's assume the harmony is set to on at the moment and that control pedal turns it off. Every day early start, late, find it hard when you can't see the end. Just take your time, it's a process. You're stuck here unless you get up and try again. Effects on. Every day early start, late, find it hard. I think that might be how they've done it. So that control pedal is assigned to tracks 1 to 3, as well as turning the vocal effects on and off, the vocal harmonies I should say, on and off. Would make sense, and then that fits everything nicely, still done with the pedal, no sneaky processing, which I wondered about. Just take your time, it's a process, you're stuck here unless you get up and try again. Every day early start looking late, find it hard when you can't see it. Just take your time, it's a cool bit of editing, right? Unless you get up and try again. Nice playing. So let's just pause here for a couple of reasons. One, we can see all of the ins and outs, and we're using literally everything apart from MIDI and the phone's output. So the curious question I have is, was this mixed purely from the RC600? I presume it wasn't. So in terms of the effects on each channel, the EQ on each channel, we've got EQ on each channel, which is awesome. We've got effects that can be assigned, controlled, all within the unit. But my guess, if I was doing this personally, I would record all those outputs raw, with perhaps the exception of using the likes of the radio tone, the effects on his vocal, specific to the pedal. Anything tone-wise, I probably wouldn't even EQ things, because I'd want the full control in the mix, whatever they're recording from. So let's just go through it. We've got one mic on the left for saxophone and percussion. We've got another mic for his vocals set up as well. Then we've got the bass. We've got 4 more inputs, right? Line inputs. We've got the bass, we've got the Jupiter synth, we've got the Roland SPD SX, the percussion pads, and the other little keys unit that I don't know what it is. So that's all on individual channels, so they can all be mixed beautifully nicely. And you notice it as well because the first time he plays that little keys, the little keys unit that I don't know what it is, it's louder in the mix. Again, this could be done with the unit so that when it's looped, it's sunk back in the mix. Totally possible. It could have just purely been done in post-production. Dear boss, if you're watching, I would love to know. In fact, I'm like this. I'm gonna ask all these questions on the live stream. It's gonna be me being like, was it all done with the unit and effects and things, or how much post-production happened to this? So, but again, beautiful setup. And the best thing about the RC600, I said it right, is the fact that all of those outputs, we've got main stereo, if you like, then 2 other stereo channels. Again, I presume each one of these had a track coming out direct, so the saxophone isolated on its own track, the percussion on its own track coming out the second, again the synth coming out on its own, the bass coming out on its own, the we might have to double something up, the I'm counting using without my thumb too, right? So if I count like a normal human, we've got the saxophone, we've got the percussion, we've got the bass, we've synth first, sorry, then the bass, we've got the SPD drum pads, we've got the other little keys, and then we've got a vocal. So we've got 7. So something had to double up on the outputs, which curious how they put it together, but very nicely done. And the last thing is we've got 2 control pedals plugged in. One is an expression or used as a volume pedal here, and it's used on a couple of tracks. It's not the whole thing, which is really tasty way to use a loop and create dynamics, which is coming up. And the other is that split controllers that I believe the first one queued up the next track to record, and the second one was start and stop tracks 1 to 3 and turn those vocal harmonies on and off. Whew, so much information. How nice is his sax playing though? I'm digging it. I really like how that was done. So, beautiful promotional video. I'm glad I literally figured out during this video how that harmony can be mapped in, which is cool. I am super curious that Boss didn't include any of those onboard effects, drum rhythms and things that are in there. Because I know there's a bunch of questions, because we've been hit before with sounds that are not wonderful, which is going back a long way. This has come up a bunch, and the RC300 is just over 10 years old. So in terms of the audio quality, the sound, everything that's programmed in there, we should expect it to be outdated, because it is. But I would have liked in the demo to have seen something of the onboard percussion, rhythms, drums that are included. Anyway, we didn't. Alright, did we map out all the different parts and what's going on there? I hope so. I hope that gives some of you, just kind of breaking things down maybe a little bit more, some more ideas on what you're going to be able to do and how you will use the pedal. Because at the end of the day, it's how we individually all use a piece of gear that counts more than necessarily the capacity that's there, I think. So for some of you, this opens up a huge range of possibilities where you've been stuck, and that's awesome. But I'm going to stop talking. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next reaction video or the next video on the channel. Otherwise, also we'll see a bunch of you on the Boss live stream today. Ciao.